So Manchester seems to really be taking over the transfer market. Yoro and Zirkzee have joined Manchester United. Savinho has just joined Man City. They might be signing Guimaraes. There's a few other transfers going on at the moment, so let's talk about them. So just before I start the video, I'm going to ask you guys to pop a subscribe on the channel. If you're not fully convinced yet, I hope you get to the end of the video and you feel convinced. But let's get into the first transfer. So excuse me if I'm absolutely mullering the pronunciation, but Leny Yoro is joining Manchester United for a fee to be reported around 52 million from Lille. He's an 18-year-old centre-half who's only had 1 year of senior football, and from what I've seen, he looks to be a really good player. A lot of people are comparing him to Van Dijk in the way that he's a sweeper. He's happy to be the last man of the defence and clear up the balls. He seems to be a good passer, but it's a weird one because he's 18. Manchester United fans are getting so hyped up about him, but he's had 1 year of senior football in the French division, which possibly isn't even in the top 5 divisions at the moment. You know, we've got Portugal and we've got the Netherlands, who have quite competitive leagues, so it's going to be a big step up, especially going to a club like Manchester United, you know, globally in the top 3 clubs in the world. A lot of expectations from the fans. Let's see how that one goes. I'm saying it's like a 5 out of 10 transfer. It's a lot of money for an 18-year-old, but he's got bags of potential, so I'm happy to be proved wrong. And then they're also signing Joshua Zirkzee. I think it's a astute signing. The fee's reported to be about 36 million. He's only young and he's been under Thiago Motta last season at Bologna. They did great in Serie A. Motta ended up going to Juventus, and Zirkzee's got a big money move to Manchester United. Now he's going to be competing with Højlund for that striker spot. He can also play attacking midfield. I think he's a very different type of player to Højlund, and I think he's one that suits Ten Hag's football more. He's basically a number 10 who can finish, so he plays up front, he drops into the pockets, he'll get the ball and he'll play a clever pass. He's got great balance. I think he's a really good transfer, but Manchester United fans, again, they need to be patient. There's a clear change in direction in the transfer strategy at Manchester United, and it's going to require a lot of patience. Ineos are coming in, and I feel like these two signings are very, very good. But as I say, you need patience because they're young and they're going to take a couple of years to get even close to that point. And Savinho is joining Manchester City for 30 million. It's quite a weird transfer because he's joining from Troyes in the French top division for 30 million, as I say, but he's never played a game for them. He's been out on loan at PSV, he's been out on loan at Girona, and it's how these multi-club models work. They'll sign a player at one of the clubs, they'll potentially never play a game, then that club will somehow make a drastic profit, and then that's just how it goes. I think he's a decent player. A lot of people are comparing him to the Doku mould at Manchester City, which is what Pep seems to be going for in his wingers. So does that mean that Grealish is going to be phased out even more? That 100 million transfer price tag is looking worse and worse for Grealish, but I'm excited to see how this lad does. He's 20 years old, he's signed on a 5-year contract. I think Pep is, you know, one of the best managers in world football to develop a player, but he's also great at ruining a player. Hopefully it goes well. And then Jadon Philogene is joining Aston Villa for 18 million from Hull. There's a 30% sell-on clause, so it's only about 13.5 million that they're paying. It's very clever business what they've done. So Villa matched the bid from Ipswich, which was also 18 million because of a clause in the contract, because they only sold him 12 months ago to Hull. He had quite a decent season in the Championship. He had an injury throughout the midpoint, but he was really good. He can play on either wing, he's direct, he's got an amazing work rate, he's skillful. Once he's had a bit of end product to his game, he's got it, don't get me wrong, he's got end product, but obviously it's a different kettle of fish. He's at Aston Villa where they've got Champions League football now, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I reckon he's a very, very good player. I genuinely think it's like an 8 out of 10 transfer, excuse me. In a couple of years' time, I could easily see him being a 50 million plus pound player. And then a few rumours, I'm just going to quick fire through them. The first one is Amadou Onana going to Aston Villa for 50 million. I think it's a weird one because, yeah, he joined Everton with a lot of expectation, but personally, I've never seen him have a season or even a run of games where he's looked a 50 million pound player. I know that he was out injured for a fair bit of last season, and he's a decent player. I know that he's got clear qualities on show. He's a great ball winner, he can play from deep, but replacing Douglas Luiz is a very difficult task, especially in an Emery side, and I don't know how I feel about Onana being worth 50 million, Douglas Luiz going for 42 million. I don't think he's better. I think Champions League football is going to be a big step up for him as well. Very happy to be proven wrong. You know, I reckon that he's got clear traits, as I say. 6'4" battler in the midfield, but let's just see how that one goes. And then De Bruyne is going to Al-Ittihad for however much, we don't know yet. It's probably going to be a decently sized transfer, and quite frankly, he's going to be playing Benzema and Kante there, and he's getting one final paycheck. He's in his final year of contract at Manchester City, and you can't really blame him for leaving. He's had nearly a decade now of just dominating the Premier League. Obviously, a few injuries in there, but he's done everything that you can do. He's won the Champions League, FA Cup, Premier League with Manchester City, and it came a bit of a shock to me because I feel like he is Mr. Manchester City. You know, when you think of Man City, you know, you got your Haaland, but since Vincent Kompany left, I feel like De Bruyne really has been the staple of that club. And it's going to be a weird one to say Man City line up without him because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the only elite midfielder that they've got now is probably Rodri. I know that Bernardo can play there, Foden's an attacking midfielder, so I suppose he could be classed as that. I class him more as an attacker, but out and out central midfielder, who they're going to be lining up with next season, it's probably going to be Kovacic. But they are also rumoured with Bruno Guimaraes, so that moves me on because I feel like that'd be a serious piece of business. I reckon he's been absolutely amazing. He's Newcastle's Rodri in the way that if they don't play without him, they're a lot worse as a team. So Rodri and Guimaraes as a midfield could be fantastic. And from the point of view of Newcastle, good luck on replacing him. It's going to be difficult. FFP is tight for you. But I believe that you've got good enough owners, even though Staveley's going, to replace Guimaraes. I'm looking forward to see how that goes. And then the final transfer rumour is Takefusa Kubo. Excuse me if I've mullered that pronunciation. The Japanese winger plays at Real Sociedad and he's potentially joining Liverpool. We don't know how much it is, but Salah is in his final year of contract and quite frankly at Liverpool they need another left-footed winger. I feel like that's the trend of how their club plays. I feel like Slot is very much wedded to having inverted wingers in his side. On the left they've got Gakpo, Jota, Diaz, who can all play that role of cutting in. But on the right hand side they've got Harvey Elliott, but they need another one, and if Kubo's going to join, that'd be a very good transfer. I know for the last couple of years Salah's been rumoured with leaving, so it's going to be interesting whether something like that happens, especially with him being in the final year of contract. Are Liverpool going to let him run down his contract and lose out on money for him, or are they going to let a Saudi club come and pay 30, 40, 50 million for him and accept that they've got to replace him? I think for a strategic point of view, you've got to view it as lose Salah and potentially not play as good, or keep Salah and potentially get Champions League football again next season and do better in the Champions League. I think it's a very difficult one. From a business point of view, is it worth losing Salah and gaining that money, or potentially doing worse in the competition next season? You might have to tell me that one down in the comments because I don't know how good Kubo is, but he's definitely not as good as Salah. And he can definitely reach the heights of Salah. It's very difficult. But with a new manager coming in at Liverpool as well, they had a lot of change last summer, a lot of change again this summer. Is that helpful for the club? I'm not too sure. So yeah, that's the roundup of this week's transfers. I say Yoro, Zirkzee, all coming to Manchester United, and Savinho going to Man City, potentially Guimaraes as well. It's going to be interesting to see how the Premier League is next season. Manchester United seem to finally be doing some good business, and Man City are inevitably probably going to win the league, but it's good to see Manchester United back on track, as much as their fans aren't the greatest. But yeah, let me know how you thought about the video in the comments. Let me know about any transfers which I've missed out, which I should have included. As I said at the start of the video, please hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it. I do plenty more content. I do tactical analysis, I do player analysis, and obviously transfer roundups. Thank you very much for watching.